Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast. Our primary objective is to motivate and inspire our listeners to never quit. The reality of life is simple. We all fall. We all fail. At times, we get knocked down. The question is, do we get back up? Are we stronger? Are we better prepared to attain the maximum of our potential? Thank you for joining our No Quit tribe. As you go for your greatness today, never quit. And remember, we rise by lifting others up. Welcome to episode number 325 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and today's theme of the day is Set a New Standard. Our quote of the day comes to us from Brian Tracy. Leaders set high standards, refuse to tolerate mediocrity or poor performance. The one request we have for our listeners and our No Quit tribe is for you to please subscribe to our show and leave us a 5-star review, as it helps us reach a much wider audience so we can positively impact more people. I was so excited when I booked today's guest on our show. Dr. Kevin Elko has worked with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Dallas Cowboys, and Alabama's championship football team, just to name a few. He absolutely crushes it, and I know you will enjoy today's episode. Dr. Elko, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Chris.
First question I ask everybody is, are you ready to positively impact at least one person today?
Absolutely. That would make it a good day for me.
I agree 100%. The number one objective of our show is to motivate and inspire our listeners to never give up. And I was curious if you yourself have either a no-quit story or a challenging time where you could have given up or given in, but you didn't.
About 3 years ago, June 5th, at about 6 o'clock, they carried me out of here in an ambulance, took me to Allegheny General Hospital in Pittsburgh, and then Cleveland Clinic told me I missed dying by 2 minutes. And of course, I didn't give up at that moment, but I had to make a decision that I wasn't going to give up going forward. And I had to just say one statement to me: that didn't happen to me, that happened for me. I literally told my family goodbye. I told all of them. I called everybody in and said goodbye. I tell people this all the time, because I hope every one of us lived to be 200 years old. We go through something where our life was taken and given back. And how I didn't give up is then I had to make a decision that resiliency is not coming back from a setback. To me, is how do I come back better? I have a sign on my wall: when I fall, who I become will catch me. And I decided I was going to come back to where I was. It wasn't just that I wasn't going to give up. I was going to go back. I want to go back to a better place. So I went back to Cleveland Clinic and I says, I am going to now set a standard. And when you say, your question's good, but you have to say exactly when I say I'm not going to give up, what's going to be my standard to keep on going. Did you play Little League?
I did, yes.
Okay. Tell you what I think about that. This is the plate, 17 inches wide. When you played Little League, it was 17 inches. If you played in high school, it was 17 inches. If you went to minors, it was 17 inches. If you played in the pros, Major League Baseball, it was 17 inches. They don't say, well, Chris, good pitcher, but he can't get over. We like him, but he can't get over the plate. They go, no, it's 17 inches. It's not that I didn't just quit. I had to set a new standard. It's not I didn't give up, because you got to be very specific. The great ones are very specific. So I came back and said, physically, mentally, spiritually, not that I'm not going to quit. I'm coming back better. So I do HIIT training now. I meditate every day, and I'm a vegan. So it's not only that I just say I'm not going to give up. You know what I said to me? 17 inches, and we're not coming off of it. We're not coming off of it. It's the standard. We don't have any standards anymore, because we don't have with our kids. We use a 2-syllable well. No, give up. Not only not give up, when something happens, I'm coming back to a higher standard. So wasn't my plan. I lost 40 pounds. My plan was just to be healthy. I start running sprints every day, and I meditate 3 times a day, and I'm thankful. But it's not just that say, oh, I'm not stopping. No, I'm coming back with a standard, baby. And that was what was a little bit different about mine, because and you always got to have a reason, a because. You know that. My cause are my kids. And I just didn't want that monkey on my back. Like, okay, this almost got me, but is it going to come back? I had eliminated. So I missed dying by 2 minutes. But I'm gonna tell you one thing: I'm not getting back in that ambulance again.
I love how you worded that, and I truly appreciate you touching on that. And it is setting a new standard, and it's coming back. And the way you worded it is perfect, and it's a perfect segue into your new book, Believing is Seeing, which, as I shared with you offline, is a fantastic book.
Thank you.
Got to pick your brain on the whole concept and idea of mindset, and just where did your fascination with that idea and concept come from? Because I think it is unbelievably powerful, and having read this book definitely made me think about some things differently.
To not quit is faith. And, of course, there is spirituality in my book, but I'm not talking about that. So what I just read the book, and I read a book, and after reading a book, not that one, I read some, and this was before COVID. I thought, we're getting so cynical and we're losing our faith as people. So if you're saying, as you have in the background, it's always too early to quit, you have to say, well, I have faith that good's coming. I have faith if I put effort into something, it will keep on coming more than anything else. So the concept of mindset, first time it hit me, and is when I was a kid, if I misbehaved, I had to go see my grandmother. So I was with her all the time. And my dad was crying one day that she had leukemia. I went to see her, and I said, she was playing an organ, and she had a real rare form because she was going to die in like a week. Real rare form. She's playing this organ and singing and stuff. And I'm going, what's going on? And so I said, Dad, you're going to die. She said, who told him that? I said, the doctors. She said, I'll die when I'm ready. 4.5 years. She's supposed to live 7 days. And I realized right there how powerful it is when you think that way. I was in Tallahassee working years ago at Florida State football, and I read where this woman was in her yard, 77 years old, and a car fell on her grandchild. And it was up on jacks. She got underneath the car and kicked it out. She picked up the car. Had to take a clear mind, faith, and a vision. Now, I can see you're an athlete, but I benched 90 pounds the other day, and I was excited. But she's 77. She picks up the car. Why? Mindset. It's the way her mind was set. The way, set your mind and keep it set. She said it. She didn't say, this is awful, this is terrible, oh my goodness, I can't do it. She went with faith, vision, and purpose and picked up that car. That's how you don't quit. Faith, vision, and purpose. She had faith, she could do it. She did it. You say, well, she can't do that. The scientists say she can't do that. She did it. She had faith. She had vision. What was the vision? The car coming up. She had purpose. The child. That's how you don't quit. And that book, Believing is Seeing. If you have faith, vision, and purpose, you do something amazing, and you won't quit. And you'll always be blessed if you don't quit.
I absolutely love the way you worded that. Early on in your book, you share something that I wanted to get your perspective on, where average adult has 50 to 70,000 thoughts, and 80% of them are negative. Can you touch on that for a second, and the importance of positive self-talk?
We're not wired. What you're doing in your program, excellent. But we're not naturally where there's a need for what you're doing. What we wrote about, different programs we got, is we're not wired naturally to do this. We're wired to be safe. So our brains aren't naturally positive. Our brains are naturally negative because our brains are like any other organ in our body. It just wants us to survive. So it's constantly looking for what's wrong. Our minds are Velcro for bad. That's the way it works. They're Velcro for bad things. So we're always looking for the bad things. That's the way our mind works. We're constantly looking for bad. We're constantly looking for what's wrong. So it's not that somebody has negative thoughts because they're some bad person. That's how we're wired. We're really outlived our evolution. We're really somebody who wants to constantly look for what's wrong all the time for survival cases. So your mind's naturally wired to have negative because you're saying, I got to pay attention to negative so I don't repeat it or I don't go there. So that was true 500 years ago, maybe more, because a tribe or some animal might attack you. But today, to be happy, it's not natural, or to be upbeat and positive. So you got to rewire the brain. Our brains are very plastic. They shape and reshape all the time. And if you're around somebody and they're speaking something, I'm on a cruise with my sister, her two kids, my son, a couple years ago, and her son kept on saying, for sure, for sure, for sure. I was losing my mind. For sure, for sure. For 2 weeks after that cruise, I'm going around, for sure, for sure, for sure. Our brains are plastic. So we have to, on purpose, write out our self-talk, write out our vision, be intentional, choose to think in a way that takes us to not being a quitter, think us not being negative. So we have these thoughts naturally. We have to rewire our brain by how we talk to ourselves, by how we focus, those sort of things.
I love that example. Interesting question we ask each guest is, if you had to define yourself, but you could only choose one word, what word would you choose?
Faith.
Would that always have been your word, or would that have changed over time?
It's changed. Because as time has gone on, there were times in my life, I've just got to be honest, there was a time maybe it was cynical, it was discouraged, it was sad. Today it's faith. I have to. What we've went through in 2020, what's going forward. We thought 2021 was going to be so much easier. There's been so many different challenges. Now the weather, I just got done doing a 2-hour discussion with people from Texas, what they're going through. I just believe. I have faith. I believe good's coming. And I have to do it with my actions. I have to do with everything. And I believe it's a powerful word that when we choose it, you're not a born winner, not a born loser, you're a born chooser. So I choose to have it. I choose to act like it, to see it, and have vision. So I would say faith.
You've worked with some of the most successful sports teams, both collegiately as well as professionally. And I was wondering, is there one athlete that really stood out with you that just had a different level of mental toughness? And if so, what was it about them that was different?
Probably the one I work with had the most. And, I worked with the Cowboys. So I was there with, Michael Irvin and Dion and Emmitt Smith. So I saw, all those great guys. I work with Monster Energy Drink now. So they've got fabulous athletes. They have Tiger Woods, and they got Gronk, and they're fabulous. John Dornbos, long snapper. What was so special about John Dornbos? He was a young child, and he went away to camp. His dad started on a ground floor at Oracle. He was at Microsoft. They were wealthy, and a police car pulled up and said, "Your dad killed your mom." He went then and was in foster care. He got fascinated with magic. After he got fascinated with magic, he went and played football at Texas El Paso. Sent a video to the Buffalo Bills. I was consulting with them at the time, somebody snapping the ball. And they signed him. It was a doctored video, wasn't him. Told himself how Snap made the team. Played in the league for like 16 years. Went, and then they traded him from the Eagles to New Orleans Saints. Found out he had a hole in his heart. They said, if you get up and move too fast, you're dead. Had to have complete surgery. Was in the hospital for 28 days, intensive care. Now, he was runner-up on America Got Talent. I write his stuff up. He married to a beautiful, beautiful person, does all kind of talks at Vegas, all pro in the year, had an Emmy for a radio show, and his thing's real simple, Chris. I had a nightmare. I overcame it with a dream. Now, he made Pro Bowl. He did unbelievable stuff, but it's just how he kept coming back, resiliency, and just what he did. I mean, imagine turn on TV as a child and seeing the court case of your dad, what he did to your mom. And just his resiliency, how he came back, I thought was incredible. So I'd probably say John Dornbos. Even though I've worked with guys who have done incredible things, but that's what I would say.
He's an unbelievable guy. I had the fortune of having him on right after his book came out, and I didn't know much about his story as he was an NFL player. But to your point, it's just unbelievable what he went through, but more importantly, the resiliency and how he's come back such a better version of himself. You spoke about, before we went live, 14 challenges, and I wondered if you wouldn't mind just telling our listeners a little about that and how they can find out more about that as well.
We have a program called the 14 Challenges to the Best You, and I like it. I'm excited about it. If you go to drelko.com, If you go to drelko.com, and it's pretty cool, Chris. It's what we've done is we have 14 videos. They're all 8 to 10 minutes long, and we take you through 14 different steps. And then there's a virtual workbook and our book we send you. And a pattern, it goes with our book. We give you an autographed copy of the book. But if you get together with groups, and what we talk about is be the lion. That's where we start. Don't be the greyhound. We talk so much, which was a concept that we got real popular during Alabama's run this year. And then we talk about goals and power, put them in your head over and over and over. Then we talk about nitty gritty goals, writing up your daily activity and staying on it constantly, and clearing your mind of clutter so your mind's quiet, focused on what matters and what's important. And people have done it, looked at it, it's powerful. But we'll keep at it over and over and over, because what happens with your mind is your conscious mind is a post-it note. Your subconscious mind is a supercomputer. This program goes after the supercomputer. And we go to 3 areas: your body, healthy; your career, make it your calling, grow it; and relationships, the number one factor in being happy, warm, close relationships, and how to set it up. 14 challenges to go through the progression and to go to the end and become just the best version of you. So it's the videos you'll have right there with you, doing your computer on your phone. Do it with your friends. Do it as so you can have accountability. And then the other thing we do is the whole concept of putting it there over and over and over. 14 different steps. Be the lion, be the pro, goals, nitty gritty goals, clearing out the mental clutter, learning how to have strong resiliency and not quit, as you talk about on this program. So it's the 14 challenges to the best you. Go to drelko.com. You guys will love it.
I appreciate that. Wanted to follow up on one of the things you said, goals. I think it's something that we all think about differently. I know some people promote it, the importance of goals. Some people say goals don't work. I'm a believer in goals, the importance of short-term, long-term, but wanted to get your quick perspective on goals, and maybe it'll help any of our listeners really set some goals for the rest of 2021 and beyond.
I love 90-day goals. I looked at a lot of research that's out there, and 90 days is the perfect period. And there was a study done by Mark McCormick, who started IMG. He wrote a book, What They Didn't Teach at Harvard School of Business. And there was a whole talk to these students that were getting their MBAs at Harvard. And what they did is they had them write these goals and write them. I write them and rewrite them. I got a vision board over across the hall in my office. I write them and rewrite, keep feeding them to me over and over and over, keep feeding them. So Mark McCormick said there was a seminar, and they did just that. They taught them, and this is in our 14 challenges, they taught them how to write and rewrite and keep putting in their head. They came back later, years and years later. 84 of them didn't do it. Didn't do the whole thing. I love working off a notebook. That's how I do it. 13 had it in their head, but they didn't write it and rewrite it. 3 wrote them and rewrote them every single day. They made 10 times as much money as everybody else. The 13 that just put in their head, they made twice as much money. It makes life easier because you're not all over the place. This is what matters. You keep the main thing the main thing. You learn how not to get caught by distraction, because this is what matters, especially you keep putting in your head. And so I think when you do it over and over and over, I think you're almost like the pigeon. You take out of its roost, put in a cage, shut the cage, put a blanket on it, drive it 1,000 miles, take it out of the cage, put in the air, it goes right back to that spot. You can program your brain the same way. And life's goals, the rest is commentary. And if we got to be growing somehow, or we're paying attention to stuff that doesn't matter. And when you have it and you're doing it and you're out there and you're being the lion, life's pretty good because you're taking ownership of it. And so there's so much evidence out there that when you do it, you do right. But I personally like 90 days and then rewriting it, starting it again, and putting it in your head over and over and over again. That's what we talk about in the challenge. And keep on doing it till your mind's programmed with it.
I appreciate that. Follow-up question I have. There's been a bunch of studies on the number of goals at a certain time. Do you believe, or what are your thoughts in regards to, is it 2, 5, 3?
Less arrows, more wood. Less arrows, more wood. I like 3. I like 3, personally like 3 areas. Relationships. So I like once a day, I'm going to connect with somebody, listen to somebody, encourage somebody, forgive somebody. I love, and over 90 days, I have to choose with these people, I'm going to get so much better, stronger, closer. I love relationships. My body, I want a healthy body. You don't take time to be healthy, you're going to take time to be sick. So I have goals on doing it. Here's where I'm going to keep my health, my weight, my exercise. And the third one is growing your career and, growing what you're doing with your job, doing what you're doing with your finances that relates to that. I like 3, less arrows, more wood, because you get so many, you're paying attention to me. I love those 3 goals in those 3 areas.
I love that. I appreciate you touching on that. I know that you know the famous Jim Rohn quote, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." If I could grant you dinner with any 5 people, dead or alive, and you could level up with, which 5 would you choose?
Did you say dead or alive, or did you say alive?
Dead or alive.
First one I'd want dinner with is Christ. The first one I'd want dinner with is Christ. The second one would be the Apostle Paul. Those are two that I would like to go with. The next is Frances Perkins. Do you know anything about her? Frances Perkins was a woman that was in she graduated from Mount Holyoke, and she saw over here. She saw a sewing factory catch on fire, and as she saw the sewing factory catch on fire, the doors were chained. Watch this quote: "Peaceful people, let me change the things I can, accept the things I cannot. The wisdom know the difference. Achievers, they don't say, let me accept what I can't change. Let me change what I can't accept." She's a nanny. She goes to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and she says to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, "I'm going to be your first Secretary of Labor. You're a woman. I'm going to be your Secretary of Labor because I can't accept what I saw." She wrote the Social Security Act. Can you imagine being a woman, especially those days, and walking in and telling people you're going to change this work environment? She said one phrase to herself constantly to become who she became: "Remain ye steadfast." It was the graduation speech that she heard when she graduated Mount Holyoke. That's all she said. She's gone. I'd love to have dinner with her. Never quit. Job. Job 3:25. That which I feared the most has befallen me. Job, water wears the rock. And the third quote by Job: "The bow was renewed in my hands." He didn't quit. He kept going. If we're going to do a seminar on how not to quit, I'd like to have dinner with Job. Because if you think about it, Job 3:25, that which I feared the most has befallen me. Well, think about what you want. The arrow gets renewed in my hands. What he was saying is, I don't get renewed by quitting. I get renewed as I go. Water wears the rock. Keep on going. Keep on going. It would be Job. And Thomas Edison. Sons come to him and says, "Your factory's on fire." He says, "Go get your mother. She'll never see a fire like this again." Then his wife comes and says, "Think of all that rubbish we're getting rid of." He tells the reporters the next day, "Not too old to start again." The factory fire was $1 million, would be $23 million today. Because he didn't pout, he went, "So what, now what?" He was supposed to be insured, he wasn't. The wall was supposed to be fireproof, they weren't. He didn't pout, he didn't awfulize. The next year, Thomas Edison made $20 million. It was his best year ever, equivalent to $230 million today. So Christ, Apostle Paul, Frances Perkins, Job, Thomas Edison. If I can add, I'd love to sit down with my 2 kids. I love being with my children, Claire and Jared, every time. I'd ask for that bonus dinner.
Bonus is granted. So I think that'd be a fantastic dinner. We have some fun questions we call the hot seat questions. And the only request we ask of you is just spit out the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Last meal, you can choose absolutely anything. What would you pick?
I'm a vegan these days, so let me think. Food has become unimportant to me these days. So I guess I would just say, as crazy as it sounds, just I don't get all just even a salad. I don't really get all freaked out about food anymore.
Favorite smell?
Oh, springtime, new beginnings.
Favorite sport?
I'm a jogger and I'm like an exerciser, that kind of thing. But it's got to be football. I mean, just because of the backstories, and I worked in it forever, and what it's brought to my life, working with Alabama and all the Super Bowls.
So, do you have an all-time favorite team?
The team in Alabama after the tornado year, because Carson Tinker, another long snapper, um, had this has don't live in vision, don't live in circumstance, live in vision. He was in a closet, lost his fiance. He got thrown out of it, broke his body up, and when they accepted the award before they beat LSU for national championship, he accepted the award, the Max Award, said, "Not looking for blessings coming to my life, looking to be a blessing in somebody's life." That was incredible. And this team this year at Alabama, the leadership, Landon Dickerson and Devontae Smith, Mac Jones, the leadership was incredible. It was just a special year, those two teams.
Do you have an all-time favorite movie?
I like Field of Dreams. If you build it, it will come. I thought it was a fascinating movie. I really did like it. When you have a dream and you hold it.
Do you have an all-time favorite author?
I liked Mark. I liked Mark Batterson's work. I like the work he's done. Yeah, I liked a lot of his work. And
I just had him on a week or two ago. He's a fascinating guy.
I really like Batterson's work, and the way that he talks about the whole, the concepts and spirits and what he's done. I like the one about the wild goose chase, that he wrote. So I do like the stuff that he writes.
What is the favorite app you have on your phone?
I try to get away from some of that sort of stuff. I just have an app that tells me football scores. Because I'm still an old school guy, I just read the books and so forth, but I'm not a real tech guy. So I would probably just say one that just tells me the scores.
Do you have one all-time favorite book?
I think maybe the all-time favorite book that I wrote. I love the first 100 pages of Thick Face Blackheart. It's just about how to have a process and to get completely involved with the process. I like The Road to Character. That's pretty good. But probably Wild Goose Chase is one of my favorites with Batterson.
And I'm curious about your answer to this one because you've spit out a bunch of amazing quotes, but do you have an all-time favorite quote?
I'm not looking for blessings to come into my life. I'm looking to be a blessing today in somebody's life.
I love that. So what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you, follow you, or find out more about not only your challenge, but also your other books that you've read or you've written as well?
Go to drelko.com. drelko.com. If you go to real simple, drelko.com, we have the books are on there, the challenges, the 14 challenges program is on there. We have a lot of our CDs and DVDs on there. Everything you would want is on there.
I love it. I definitely recommend our listeners checking that out. And then last question we have for you is the same question we ask everybody, is if you have any parting words you'd like to leave with our listeners today.
Every one of you were sent here with a mission to take your gifts and make a difference. And you all have a gift. My parting is, don't look for blessings. Go be a blessing. Take your gift, make a difference. Go encourage somebody. Go bless somebody. Go tell somebody how they have gifts. And I think that parting I have for everybody is this little boy every day was going home and he didn't have a real warm home. So his name was Michael, and he stopped at this dry cleaner's named Jimmy's. Jimmy kept candy on the counter. He'd go get some candy. And every day Jimmy would say to Michael, "You're special, you're gifted, you're going to run a multi-million-dollar company." He listened in disbelief. Today, Michael runs a multi-million-dollar company. And Jimmy was a prophet. My parting words, go be a Jimmy.
I love it. I think that's a perfect way to end today's podcast. I truly appreciate you being on here, and I hope that we can connect again soon.
I'll do in a minute. I thought you did a great job. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to episode number 325. Dr. Elko touched on quite a bit on today's episode. I love how he shared his 90-day goals and how they've worked for him, and how he breaks them down into 3 different categories: relationships, body, and growing your career. To end today's episode, I will echo Dr. Elko's parting words. Don't look for a blessing, but instead, let's all be a blessing for somebody else. And remember, we rise by lifting others up. And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.